On this episode of AV Week, who's responsible for AV from design to installation? And AVIXA changing up their board. All that and more. Next on AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
This is AV Week, episode 587, recorded Friday, November 18th, 2022. Heavy hitters. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information we have gathered this week, first and foremost, a young lady to whom I owe lunch, dinner, and a very nice cup of coffee. Her name is Charmaine Torruella, and she works for QSYS. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, ma'am. Also with us is my brother from another mother. His name is Chris Neto. He is from the New Jersey side, or New Jersey area of the East Coast. I just realized that all y'all are in the New York metro area. So how are you, sir?
I am doing excellent. Thanks for asking.
Absolutely. And last but not least, speaking brothers from another mother, a brand new dad, Mr. Sharath Abraham from Accenture. Welcome, sir.
Thanks for having me. Yes, dad life, hashtag dad girl, all that, every day, all day, baby.
Actually, Charmaine got to meet my dad girl, my wonderful daughter about a year ago now. So that is Sophie. And if you're wondering and you want to feel old, if you listen to the first part of any AVNation podcast, there's a little 5-year-old girl who says this is AVNation. She's 16 now. All right. First story comes to us from our friends over at Commercial Integrator. AVIXA's 2023 Board of Directors and Leadership Search Committee has been announced. First and foremost, new board members. Shout out to a couple of friends of this program. First and foremost, Bren Walker, who you will hear every 6 weeks from Kierkegaard. Also, Nairi Hollingsworth is a brand new member, has been on this program a number of times. Brad Sosa from ABI Systems. Dorothy DeStefano, or easy for me to say, from Molten Immersive Art, and a brand new Secretary-Treasurer of the Board from QSC, Jatan Shah. So congratulations to them. Also an old friend, Mike Brandis, also from QSYS, is on the new Leadership Search Committee. Monique Razai from Microsoft, and Graham Harrison, who is now with Blue Sound Professional, but spent years and years and years at BIAM. Charmaine, we're going to start with you on this. Take a look at this board. Take a look at this makeup here. AVIXA has done, according to them, some work on getting diversity into the board, diversity into the Leadership Search Committee. But take a look at it and let's say how we think about this mix, how we think about the mix, both from a DEI standpoint, but honestly, from an industry standpoint, as well, from manufacturing to end users to dealers.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, so why should I continue? But yes, that is correct. When I looked at it, shout out to QSC, represent on the AVIXA board, because we have two heavy hitters. We have one of our C-levels, Jayton, who's a very awesome, strong force within, navigating, the development of QSC and QSYS's future, and Mike Brandis, right? So very happy to see that on that note from me being also part of QSC. But yeah, the diversity is very good, especially the type of companies, right? Microsoft is on there. That was nice to see and very interesting to see, because, in our industry, we play with Microsoft more than we ever imagined nowadays. We implement with it often. And to see that they're part of, folding into the AV conversation as far as being on the AVIXA board is a very huge thing. And hopefully it's a very good trajectory for AVIXA to really hone in on that AV IT convergence more, and when you're looking for, leaders and volunteers, the organization to diversify that through the type of members that are here. One of the things, when I was chairing the Diversity Council, that's one of the things I was hoping for. I was hoping to see more of. And now that they have gone there, that's great. That's AVIXA. But we also need to see more of that from some of the other AV orgs in the industry. AVIXA can't only be the only person diversifying their board members. I won't name names, but we know the others. They have a lot of work to do. And so to keep, right now, diversifying the thought process as to our future of AV and what it entails, this is very important. And it's also very important because it helps AVIXA tell that story through those board members who could help, drive that, thought process and find the people to fit and be the impetus to that drive. So I think it's great. I love it. And I was happy to see it.
All right, Mr. Neto, same question. What do we think of the makeup of this board?
Volunteers. So in itself, you have, the heart of a volunteer. There's nothing stronger, right? There's people that are passionate, and people with a passion for what they do and what they love. There is no bounds. There is no color. There is no race. There is none of that. They're doing it because that's what they truly believe, that they can make a difference. And I believe that. The people that they went ahead and were selected or were nominated and have now are going to serve are going to make sure that they, help search for that next leader, or that leadership committee's job is to find and look for the next leaders of our industry. And we need to see people that are bringing another point of view. It can't be all the same. I'm bored of it. It's lame. It's time.
I said the same thing, Chris, because I still have one more year on the leadership search committee. And the first year I did this, I met with all these individuals, and I had the same sentiment as you. I'm like, we just need something in the future. And that's why I push so hard for Dorothy, because she's so immersed in the future aspect of immersive art and using technologies to push the boundaries of how we use AV. And then Bren Walker, her company specifies in how architectural and audio fit into a space, right? It's not just AV components. And then we have Nairi on there, who's part of the end users, giving that constant feedback. Like, I don't care, just we need all of this to work the way I need it to work. And then Brad comes in as that experience of just knowing the industry and knowing how to get things done and what the actual industry needs, because he also had a podcast with I forgot what the podcast name is, where this guy interviews all these CTOs. So Brad has a future outlook on where the industry should go and where technology should be pushing forward. And then, as Charmaine mentioned, Monique is another great addition to the leadership search committee from Microsoft, because she's now going to pull in all these CEO and CTO levels from all these companies. And then Mike is a very awesome guy. I met with him and I love chatting with him. And then Jatan is just smart. Did you know Jatan has a degree in, I think, some sort of specific studies, because his daughter, he specifically took a degree to help his daughter within something. I forgot what it was specifically, but he is a motivational person, man. I love listening to him and all the ideas he has on how to push the industry, specifically within QSC and outside of it.
You really got to put together an elite team, and that isn't mean that it's all one group of smart people. It's people that have different passions and come in from different angles. I mean, hey man, we've been watching in the movies and in pop culture. You can't do it by yourself, and you need different flavors and different point of views in order to make this work. And I 100% agree with what Sharath said. The assessment of people coming in from different walks of life and from different parts of this industry is what makes that better. Because if we all have a board that consists of nothing but manufacturer box pushers, what are we going to do? It's our industry is expanding well beyond just moving box A to box B, installing A into C and D and so on and so forth. What are we looking at from the end user perspective? Like you said about Nairi, an end user's perspective is valuable. For me personally, the best 13 years of my career was spent understanding what we did wrong as integrators when I was an end user, and how the tactics worked and didn't work, and how consulting came to me and didn't go someplace else, and where was the disconnect. The most valuable part I had to that, and that's, somebody like Nairi is going to bring a fresh perspective into that group when it comes to that, aside from all the other things that the group has to offer. So
yeah, but again, like I said, don't get all too excited too fast. That's AVIXA. There are other organizations within AV who have not done this yet. So there's more work to do. I'm still I still volunteer for diversity outside of the Diversity Council here in the Tri-State. There's more work to do. So this is nice to see, but we can't get all, comfortable too quick and say, oh, this is great. It's not the end all be all. There's more work to be done, and other types of organizations with other aspects of AV that have to do the same. They haven't.
I'm with you, Charmaine. We're all here to work, baby.
All right, Mama's watching. That's all I know. I'm watching.
I'm here to push everything. I'm here to make this industry great. But don't worry, I have the same sentiments as you as well, Charmaine. On the same boat.
Yeah, I'm happy, but I'm not comfortable.
Of course,
yet, so.
you can never be too comfortable, right? You got to always push.
Tim, you want to join the conversation, or
who, me? No, I just ask smart people dumb questions. That's my job. That is all I do. And I would concur with what Charmaine said. The one interesting thing about AVIXA versus other industry associations, and I've had some conversations with AVIXA about this, in looking and expanding on my day job, looking for the IT version of AVIXA, right? Is there an IT version of AVIXA? Is there a sports and entertainment version? Is there all of these different verticals that my day job at CTI and marketing looks at? There's not. Right, there isn't. I mean, AVIXA,
there actually is.
Well, here's the thing though. There is on the dealer side, right, or the manufacturer side. But AVIXA is unique in the fact that they bring together manufacturing, dealers, in other words, the people that put this in, and the end user, right? Mm-hmm. Do you have somebody that does that for like all those folks together in one? Okay, who? Because I am fascinated.
On the IT side, there are several organizations that pretty much do it. Like, for example, Gartner. That's a big one that comes out of mind, right? So what's been happening at the Gartner Symposium in the last couple of years is a lot of the people that exhibited at the Infocom, most of them moved over to exhibit at Gartner. And the reason being is because Gartner, the way they deal with organizations and companies and vendors, their C-levels for these big Fortune 1000s always go to Gartner Symposium. And they broker that between those C-levels and the manufacturers. So there are IT orgs. And I'll tell you, AVIXA knows of some of them. But it's just brokering that bridge to work in concert with them. That's the hard part. We can, in the AV world, probably start tiptoeing and partnering with Gartner Symposium and a lot of other things in IT orgs that do pretty much, and actually their reach is deep. So their reach is very deep into a lot of the organizations that, manufacturers as well as client, as well as, people like Presidio. You're talking about the biggest IT integrator, Presidio. That name comes up. And for us, it would be, the big three, AVI, SPL, Diversify. Presidio is the big one on the IT side. So there are organizations and that's where it comes to driving this diversity of thought and diversity of people to expand on these things, right? That's why I'm happy to see it, because we do have to expand and reach deep, because the IT orgs, they have a deep reach. They have strong, deep reaches, and we are just scratching the surface of our reach with the organizations we work with as it pertains to AV. So we can get deeper. We can. And partnership might be the way.
I mean, we're still talking about Chris's favorite subject, AV, is AVIT, right? So since I think that's half the battle, Charmaine, is this discussion of is AV IT, is IT AV is still happening, and getting people in the AV industry to just say it is what it is. They're gonna commingle, right? You have to deal with it, right? Get on the boat. It's been happening, right? That's the hard part, because our board is half of them is voted on, right? Like
So I'm going to ask a dangerous question. We're not going to get to 3 stories today, kids. We might not get to 2. Why is it still happening? Like, seriously, why are we still having this conversation?
Because in the words of Diana Ross, all you have to do is reach out and touch somebody's hand. That's all we have to do in AV. Make it a better place if you can. All we have to do, and AV is very siloed. So in our world, we like to stay away from IT. They don't understand us. We don't need to teach them anything, and I don't want to get involved and touch that. That's where we're still stuck there still. We're kind of getting out of that hole, but we're not reaching out as much. You're not going to get IT. IT's trying to reach out, but they're not going to try that hard. Again, their reach is very deep, and they're entrenched in other areas, cybersecurity. There's a whole slew of areas where, they reach out and they've already touched and engage with. But AV, it's up to AV to really just start pushing out and just push out to IT even more and be comfortable. Integrators, be comfortable with working with the soft as well as the hard. Integrators, the core competency is to work with the hardware, not the software. Get more comfortable with the software. Reach out to Microsoft. Get acquainted with your Microsoft rep for your territory, or that helps. Most AV integrators don't do that, but they're integrating a lot of team rooms. But if you're doing that and you're integrating, most of your work is now integrating MTR rooms, how are you going to evolve if you're not taking the extra step?
And that's on education, especially with the integrators and the manufacturers. That's on education, because think about when I was at Crestron and Crestron released VC4, no one understood what VC stood for, which meant virtual control. And then no one understood what a virtual machine was, meaning, hey, I don't have to put in a processor. What is this virtual machine? Where does that virtual machine live? What do you mean in the cloud, right? Those are very basic, minute understandings in the IT world. Like, that's the lowest of the lowest. And a lot of people in the AV industry, and I'm going to shout them out, a lot of integrators, the leadership is not pushing for that education to happen, so that people in their org understands what those things are about.
Agreed. And then when they're not pushing and the manufacturer comes out with this VM, what's the VM that you use? What is that? Your virtual machine. It's hard for them to work, the integrators, to see the promise and the value in these products. They don't see the promise. They're not going to talk to their customers. So now the manufacturers have to take that on, and that's what's happening. The manufacturers now in this sector of AV, the manufacturer wing is now the one reaching out to touch somebody's hand and trying to make it a better place, for supply chain reasons, and, for scale reasons, because with the soft side, you can scale. And that hits a lot of organizations who need to scale, whose shared services teams are, all over the place.
One of the other areas, and this is where we get to transition to the next and the last story, is educating our folks on, the cloud, on virtual. Sharath works for Accenture, and one of the things that he's doing right now is getting some sort of AWS certification, and he brings a story which is fascinating. I'd never heard of this before. It's called Shared Responsibility Model. We are going to talk about this for a second. Mitch will put a link on this episode's page. But AWS, and I'm sure others as well, they kind of lay out who's responsible for what. And I think that AV adopting something like this may solve a bunch of problems on the integrator side, also on the customer side. So Sharath, really briefly, explain to people, in your understanding, what the shared responsibility model is, but also how we can apply it to AV.
This is good, because now, since I studied for my test, this helps me makes me understand if I really do understand it, right?
That's what I'm here for, right? I help my daughter with her test. Now I'm helping Sharath with his.
So as I was studying for my AWS Cloud Practitioner certification, there's a section in there called Shared Responsibility Model, which is where security and compliance is a shared responsibility between AWS and the customer. So what that means is there are specific things that AWS takes care of, such as the infrastructure of where the servers are, the security of the servers, the physical infrastructure, the virtualization layers, and the physical security. But the end user's responsibility is the applications that they run on these servers, the updates to those applications, the storages that they pick, the computes that they pick, the regions that they select, the availability zones that they select, right? So it's not falling all on AWS, Amazon, as if something's not working, they're going to be like, all right, well, you're the one that put the application on our server. We don't do anything with the application. That's the application you created. It looks like your application is not working because of something your programmers did, right? So now there's an equal responsibility of Amazon as a company. We checked our servers. The servers are up to date. Their BIOS is up to date. The access management is up to date. It's on you. But at the same time, a customer can go back to Amazon and say, hey, we purchased 50 instances of EC2. They're all supposed to be running 100%, and they're all supposed to be doing, but something is happening every Friday at 3 p.m. where everything goes down. What's happening at your server location in Ohio, right? So that's a shared responsibility model that I think AV is missing with every single group, consultants, integrators, manufacturers, designers, everyone, right? So it was just more of as I was studying, I was like, that looks cool.
So Neto, give me a shared responsibility model for AV.
No, I'm not going to do that. Go call somebody else, dude. That is, first of all, I am still waiting for the subtitles to pass on what Sharath just said. You just went down a road. I was about to go all wax poetic on the old.
There are pictures on the article, dude.
I read articles. I come here to learn, man. I am.
No. That's why I'm saying there's pictures. There's nice little things like you're responsible for this, and AWS is responsible for that, and in the two, there's
So I can help with just the most easiest thing that's happening in the last couple of years. Microsoft Teams. Shared responsibility model. Integrator is responsible for buying the equipment. Integrator is responsible for updating the equipment that's going to be installed with the latest firmware. That's what the integrator is responsible for. End user is responsible for creating the accounts that are going to be used for the Microsoft Teams or Zoom devices. The end user is responsible for the passwords and the information such as time zones and everything that happens on the back end, because the integrator doesn't have access to an end user account, right? I think there's a blurred line between that's been happening where the end user might be like, oh no, here's a whole bunch of accounts, pick one, right? And the integrator's like, all right, cool. And person goes on site, picks one, and the end user's like, oh, you picked the wrong one. Well, you told me to pick one, right? And then the integrator installs something but didn't update the firmware. End user puts in account information. Oh, the actual compute hasn't been updated. The account won't work until you update. That's the most simplest shared responsibility.
It can be simple, but it could also be tricky. Because here's the thing with the integration world, right? Because you have people, I need to think of a name of an integrator that does both IT, Carousel. Throw that out there, right? So Carousel does both AV and IT integration, or SPS type companies, right? They could very well do more than the responsibility that you just designated. They actually understand.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Understand security. And in most cases, they're already doing that other stuff, spinning up virtual machines for clients as it is, right? So they're already there. I think the model that we're looking for in AV, it's not simple, but it's not hard. It's just going to have layers like an onion, basically. So it'll make you cry.
It's not simple at all. It was just an idea that came, and I'm like, I wonder if this will work. But definitely
but
not
there's
simple.
layers to it. So the responsibilities, the shared responsibilities, and it's like the division of responsibilities that integrators use when they're doing a project. But at this point in time, now that everything is converging with IT, there are going to be layers. So you have to, first assess, I think, each company, what resources do you have and what do they know? I think that's where it starts. What do you know? What resources do you have as an integration company? Do you have a guy certified with a CCNA? Do you have a guy that doesn't understand network at all? Security, things of that nature. And of course, you have the security integrators, and it's residential can do network, and there are layers. So we have to scope that out and figure out, different type of integrators, different type of resources, what you got. Once you figure that out, then you can start figuring out what those shared responsibilities should be. And fortunately, depending on the integration companies, which is a constant problem, especially now post-pandemic, it's hard to get resources. It's hard to spin them up. And a lot of the integrators are medium-sized and small. So they look to organizations like the AVIXAs and the NSCAs and things of that nature to help give them that guide. If you're going to do something like that and come up and create a model, I think it would need the assistance of these organizations to work with the integration world to come up with a model. And I think it's doable. It just has to be an initiative they want to go after, and it's going to take time, but it's doable. I think 18 months or less, with working with reaching out to the right integrators and a combination of diverse group of integrators, they can figure this out. It's just a project. It's a project that I think someone should start working on.
Chris, you have the
Chris,
answer?
It's quite
you
simple.
want to start headed up?
Actually, I do have the answer. You guys, it's great, but I'm also playing the role of the audience here, right? So in this case, where Sharath completely lost me in the conversation, now Charmaine brought me back. You guys are expecting a level of maturity in AV that we haven't quite reached yet, honestly. We have a hard time, and no disrespect to anybody out there who's going to, send me, hate DMs and stuff like that and hate tweets, but we have a hard time following a PMP process, let alone trying to enable these type of IT standards and IT processes into it, right? We are a process of other things happening. That's AV. In the world of AV, we'd be happy doing amplifier speakers and displays. But at some point, somebody brought in the world of telephony. That is what kind of started us down that road. The minute we started integrating a phone into a conference room and putting it over our speakers, we became something that we did not expect to grow. And then it turned into video conferencing and so on and so forth. Video conferencing and UC has been the biggest driver into the AV IT conversations more than anything else, because the budgets for those things come from IT. The leadership is the one that are running it, are funding it, are from IT. Yes, you take our stereo brains and our electric guitar mindset and take it into a conference room. This is how we're going to work, right? But we've not reached that point of maturity. I've seen this on AV and the AM. We've talked about this. A project manager can lay out a schedule, can lay out the details, can follow a contract and reread the contract and tell you we have milestones and all this to hit. And they're all getting passed off as don't worry about it, we'll figure it out. Consultants are driving, hey, yeah, we need to do this. This is on your responsibility. You are the one that needs to do this. But then we're letting go of certain other processes. Just coming back to a site to go through a site walkthrough, the final walkthrough, who signs off that? Try getting a sign off on an AV project. It will take forever. As a former integrator, as an end user, I'm the one who has to sign things off. And I wasn't signing it off because you still did not button up the room the way it was supposed to be done, right? Because your contract says that. It's like, well, it's good enough. Oh, you want to talk about something that upsets me? More than AVIT is our mindset of good enough. So yes, Sharath, I agree. There should be a set of, hey, we should have this kind of responsibilities. It would eliminate a lot of problems. In a world of, these questions that pop up about Batman movie password things that popped up a couple years ago where somebody had access through the back end of and you know exactly what I'm talking about, Sharath. Who got the blame on that? It wasn't it was the manufacturer. It all went back there because that's where hey, you should have done better. But at the same token, you had an integrator who was in there who didn't change it, who didn't do it, then the end user didn't follow through. Your checklist would have probably prevented something like that. And you're right, in the shipping of gear, I'm a distributor, right? Manufacturer sending it to me, I'm sending it to the site. Today, this day and age, it's hard for me to give you a equipment that actually sits in my warehouse because it comes and it goes. What's coming is what's going, and you would think it's coming with the latest and greatest software. That's a more difficult conversation. In 2019 or 2018, when equipment used to come and sit for maybe a week before it went out, that was a different story. But we're under weird circumstances right now.
It's true, but here's the thing, Chris. The client doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
And that's what it comes down to. The end user does not care. Get your stuff straight. We need it, and find a way to do this proficiently. And that's how the end users are looking at it. So with the AV world, okay, you're right. They're not mature enough. You said it. I was thinking it, but you said it. And basically, you're right. They're not, because
it varies from company to company. Some of them are hardcore by the book. Other people are very much lax. It depends on what organization you're in. So it's not a blanket policy.
But I do want to say, even though there is this shared responsibility model in AWS, that doesn't mean it's being followed to T, and that doesn't mean IT companies are mature as well. I'm just saying this is a framework, but what's happening in the real world is just like AV. Emails are going back and forth trying to figure out who to blame who, but nothing is actually getting done, right? So I want to preface that even though there's a shared model, the IT industry is just as bad as the AV industry. And it just has a little bit more.
You are right, but you know why that is? Yeah. They're just as bad because both IT and AV have the same problem, and you guys didn't know this. The lack of PMPs. That's where it is. Both sides.
Modified
from both
versions of
Yeah. The lack of PMPs within both worlds, and a lot of people who understand those processes of how to make that happen is why they both have the same problem. So you could put that down, but I think that's a lost skill set, and a PMP or project manager certification translates across both. It translates across even the other industries we work with, such as GC and contractors and consultants. But there's a lack of that. And I think that's also a problem, and that has to be, augmented. It has
That's a whole nother episode.
It is. And at this point, I think the only person in the industry we haven't beat up today are programmers. So on that note,
there's still time. Wait, there's still time?
There's not time, which is what I'm getting to. Thank you all so much. Charmaine Torruella, thank you, ma'am. How do people connect with you or QSIS?
You connect with me at QSIS or QSC by going to my email, charmaine.torruella@qsc.com. It's not spelled how it sounds. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Twitter. If you type my name exactly as you see it spelled.
All right, very good. Sharath Abraham, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you?
LinkedIn, Sharath S. Abraham, Twitter, Sharath S. Abraham, and now Instagram, Sharath S. Abraham. I updated my Instagram account to be more professional. So
and to show off your baby girl, you dad.
Exactly.
That's what that's about.
Gotta post all these pictures.
We've mentioned Twitter, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention Mr. Neto and AV in the AM. So please check that out on Sunday mornings. But Mr. Neto, if Twitter goes the way of the dodo bird, where can people connect with you in addition to Twitter?
I'm going back to mailing. You can mail me at my address. I'll be giving out my home address.
P.O. Box 111, White Plains, New York.
Exactly. And if you act now, I'll give you a secret decoder ring for all my cool technical stuff that I'll be talking about that I want nobody to know about. Absolutely. You can find me on the internet right now. The only, I can't even call it a safe space anymore, but LinkedIn is where you would find me. Christopher Neto, CTS. Put that there because you may confuse me for an Australian guitarist of the same name, but the CTS is my big differentiator. Get that, kids, all in one. Let's go. Twitter, Chris_Neto. My Instagram is there, but that's not what you want to look at. Outside of that, Sundays, AV in the AM. I do work for a company called Starin. Starin.biz is our web address. Stop by there if you are in the integrator world and looking for parts and pieces. We do have parts and pieces that will ship. So you never know what I may have. You may have to.
That last part's important, kids. Just in case you're wondering.
That's what we call. That's what we call in the industry. That's what we call a spoiler.
Yeah. For me, for Tim Albright, do not follow me on the Twitters or anywhere else, but go by the website if you would please, AVNation.tv. And it's AVNation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. Brand spanking new AV profession from our friend Taylor Moore, just came out here recently. Also check out the new retooled EdTech. Mr. with our friend Aaron Mayer Moran and all the others. So check all that out and more at AVNation.tv. That is AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That's all the time we have for AV Week.